Good afternoon, my esteemed 5-star TV viewer. From whichever place you are watching us, you are most welcome. Today being 25th of May 2024, on our usual program that is the State of the Nation, we have with us in the studio Mr. Barack Otieno will enlighten us more about the 3 days visit of President William Ruto to USA. Mr. Barack, please feel most welcome and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good afternoon, listener and viewer, whenever you are watching this. My name is Barack Otieno, and I hope we'll be together for the time we are going to talk about the 3-day state visit in US. So come along.
Mr. Barack, once
Yes,
again you are welcome.
yes.
And let's just begin this conversation with an immediate effect. Remember, remember the President of the Republic of the USA, that is President Joe Biden. On his speech, he showed indication of supporting the President William Ruto's decision of deploying 1,000 police force to the Haiti. What is your take on that?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weekly, for the question, and I think going direct to answer you what you just said, that the plan of deploying 1,000 policemen to Haiti is something which is going to happen, and the way you have said that Joe Biden, the president of US, was in support with Ruto's action. So Kenya has been known as one of the countries who is supporting international peace, and he just the other way, the other some months ago, you saw that Kenya policemen were in DRC Congo. That is an action they took, and even as we talk, there are some Kenya military who are in Somalia who are fighting the Al Shabaab, the Islamist, the Al Shabaab. So uh, President Biden supporting Ruto to take the 1,000 policemen to Haiti is one of the best way to maintain international peace. And I think when you remember that Biden also said that he's going to support the Kenyan military with the training, and you remember the 16 helicopters which are going to be deployed into Kenya, so that they can be used in maintaining peace and fighting things like terrorism. So I think that will be the best way. When you talk about President Biden in support with the Kenyan action of deploying 1,000 policemen to Haiti, I think it will give Kenya a good brand, and it will also open up. Kenya will be known for peacemaking. I think that is okay.
Now, on the same note,
Yeah.
I think taking 1,000 policemen to the Haiti.
Yeah.
And you know that some of the parts of the Kenyan are experiencing insecurity. For example, in the northeastern part, there is insecurity. Though these Al-Shabaab men, they find themselves chipping in into the nation. Do you think that by taking those policemen to Haiti will reduce the number of the police force who are supposed to take the responsibility of the securing the boundary of Kenya's nation?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wycliffe. You know, when we look at the state of the nation today, and in relation to 1,000 policemen being deployed to Haiti, it is affecting the country positively and negatively. So we know that the policemen in Kenya, when we talk about the policemen in Kenya going to fight the Haiti gangs, you know, sometimes it applies like, it happens like our policemen are inexperienced enough to fight the gangs. You remember the Prime Minister of Haiti resigned just some months ago, stepping down because of the overwhelming actions of the gang. So I think in relation to the security of Kenya as a nation, it is something that is contradicting the value of our citizen, because as some members of the country, the citizens of Kenya are crying of peace, of insecurity in different parts of Kenya. And in the same action, you find that there are some policemen who are taken in other countries to fight against insecurity. So it is something contradictory. But in line with what Biden said, we
Yeah.
hope for the best. We wish the 1,000 policemen who are going to be deployed in Haiti the best, so that they can achieve whatever it's going to take them there. No, and you also said there that uh, deploying 1,000 is going to reduce the number of policemen who are supposed to be fighting insecurity in some northeastern part of Kenya. I think the policemen in Kenya are just enough when they look at the strategies on how to deploy on the strategies on how to deploy different policemen in different parts of Kenya. I think those who are going to remain can handle these cases.
As an expert in the political arena and as well as in whatever is at the, and the welfare of the nation. So, by taking those 1,000 policemen in the Haiti, the African at large, when we come to Somalia, we find that there is much insecurity. Do you think that Somalia can as well take their police force to Haiti?
Maybe when we talk about the Somalia security men, because when they ask for external police forces, meaning the forces they have within Somalia are not just enough. So I think answering question about Somalia as a nation is going to be a bit contradictory, Mr. Wycliffe.
Now on the green energy, Mr. President, the President of the Republic of America, he promised that he will offer his much support on the green energy, that is the technology. So what are some of the technologies that the President of the USA, Joe Biden, is planning to bring us here in Kenya?
So, Mr. Wycliffe, when you talk about green energy, you talk about things like solar panel. Let's talk of renewable energy using the hydroelectric power. You also apply the wind power. So when we talk about the green energy, we find that Kenya has the potential of producing green energy, but they lack resources. So it is resources. When the president was awarded his visit was awarded, and we find that come with some finances. So we think the president's visit to US is going to benefit Kenya to expand the amount of finance, is going to help Kenya to expand the amount of finance to venture into green energy. I think it is going to be applicable for Kenya, because there are many dams in Kenya. We find that there are many places where they're experiencing a lot of wind. So they can turn that wind into electricity, so that it can be usable. It can be useful to renewable energy in our country. So I think reviving green energy in Kenya is going to be impactful for the citizens, and even for Kenya as a whole. It can be even exported to other neighboring countries like Uganda, because you even some other countries, because when there is green energy in Kenya, many business will sprout up. Yeah.
You said back then that Kenyans lack enough substantial resources to put up the energies among themselves. But with me, in my opinion, I think that Kenya is at their best in producing their own energy without the support from the foreign nation.
Okay, when you talk about at their best, when you talk about Kenya being at their best, my friend, I think you are losing it. When you say at the best, meaning there is no country which is at much in Kenya. But when you talk about the power we are using in Kenya, you find that maybe sometimes it's finding its source from Uganda. You can't say that Kenya is experienced, Kenya is having all that it needs to be a powerful nation. There are some parts in the country who are not even, parts which are not connected with the internet, they don't have the electricity. So with the renewable sources of energy and the green energy, as we call it, Kenya will be the whole of the nation. It is only in towns where you find that the electricity are available. So when we talk about the renewable sources of energy, we find that even those places which are far away from the towns will be experiencing the joy of having the renewable sources of energy. I think electricity will be found in in the local places and even in towns as well.
So, on that point, what advice can you give to government to ensure that we as Kenyans we produce our own energy with the resources which are available without getting the support from the great nations who are superpowers like the China and the USA?
I just think that neocolonialism is still existing in Africa, in Kenya, but for Kenya to depend on its own sources without linking up with the foreign countries, the leaders must begin within themselves, the head of state coming down, or it should be narrow even to an at individual's level, even the listener and the viewer who is watching this, it should be narrowed down to him or to her, because when there are corrupt leaders in the nation, we can be crying about inadequate funds when there are funds which are there are enough, only that there are people who are keeping them for themselves. Yeah, I think that is what is happening.
President Ruto'S during his speech with the reporters, he said that he wants American citizens who are, let me say, the investors to come in large numbers so that they can invest here in Kenya. So, do you think that by allowing most of the investors from the USA to come to come to Kenya, there will be any beneficial to Africans?
Mr. Wycliffe, that will be very far. That is, it will be beneficial to Africa as a whole and even to Kenya, because when investors come to Kenya, they come to employ our people, the youth who have been crying outside there for lack of employment, those who have been sacked by different companies, because we find that many companies are going down because of the increasing taxes in our nation, you remember, and there are also people who are very greedy. They work with the family members. So I think when foreign investors come in our country, they are going to open up business opportunity for the youth and even those who are not employed. So Kenya opening up for investors from the US, that is going to be a good step for our nation, and it's going to bring much benefit to our country.
Back then, while you remember back then, the Kenyan nation was working closely with China, but with the stepping in of the new regime headed by the President William Ruto, is now trying to deepen his close ties with the America. And you remember there is an incident when you will find that, for example, those investors who have put up the investment in Kenya, most of the China, they try to punish those Africans who are working for them. Do you think that this issue will also continue while the American citizens allowed to come and input their investment in Kenya?
Okay, Wycliffe, answering your question, I think it will be a good step. The first state visit which Kenya had was back in 1980 when President Moi went to state to meet the president then, so that they can come together to create something as with the cooperation, collaborating to create opportunities and even to bring investment to Kenya. I don't know whether it failed, but again, President Kibaki in 2003 did the same, going to visit the US state. And now, from that time to this day, we find that it is Mr. President, the current president of our nation, has gone to talk about the investment. So when in linking this with the China companies, we find that there are many China goods in our country. Even if you look at your phones, many gadgets, exactly. You find that they are branded made in China. And you find even goods which are locally made in our country, they are branded made in China, because the companies who are in charge of these goods are from China. So I think when you say that Biden is linking up with the Kenya so that they can create their opportunities in Africa and bring their investors in Africa, it is something more of competition. But again, I think when you consider the China companies, they also try as they can, but mostly they levy a lot of, they put too much conditions in our nation. You remember when they build SGR they wanted to take control of SAR for some period of time, is when Kenya could take full charge of his year. So I think when US come to take charge, or when US come to collaborate or to do business and even to collaborate with our government, is going to be a good step for us. Now, you know, what Biden wants is to dethrone Beijing, the president of China. We find that Kenya is mostly depending on China goods, as I said before. So I think Biden is trying to coordinate with the President William Ruto, so that they can be together to dethrone the form of partnership Kenya has been having with China.
Now on the investment still, President Biden, together with counterpart, that is the President of the Republic of Kenya, they have planned that they will allow the investment most of from the USA to come to Kenya. Do you think that by doing that, and you know very well that most of the investors, when they come to a certain nation to put investment, most of the profit that they got out of the investments, they try to repatriate them back to their nations. Of what benefit will a common mwananchi, that is the citizen of Kenya, benefit after they have taken back their benefits?
Okay, Wycliffe, I think the question I answered some times back, but allow me just to give you a recap of what I said before, is that you know, when investors come into our country, they don't come with the employees. And those who are going to be employed in such companies, when US embassy come to invest in Kenya, they employ our citizens, the youth. So when they employ the youths are going to pay taxes, and through the taxes, our state is going to be having some funds to distribute or to carry out some development. And you remember Biden also talked about infrastructure. You know, when they are in good infrastructures, employment will come on their own. Those who will be constructing, though the company which will be in charge for the construction is from US, but those who will be doing the construction itself are our citizens. So I think it will be opening up job opportunities. It will be opening up the mines, linking the urban areas with the rural places. So it will be a good step for a nation to link up with the US state.
Also on the same note, Beijing, the president of China, he has done a lot investment in Africa. He's trying to put more investment in Africa before the president of the Republic of America, that is the USA, came into power, and you find him already doing it. Do you think that by doing this, there will be something sinistering around, or there is a war that shall ensue?
Not something like a war, because we find that most companies who are from China, they come to do these things on loan. So you know, when you are loaned into something, you work as someone who is going to pay back the wages. So I think when President Ruto links with the President Biden in businesses, they are going to pay the China loans. And if possible, the China will fund their routes outside our country, so that it opens up the country for US investment. I think that is to answer your question.
Mr. Barakutenu, thank you for your time.
Thank you as well.
We shall invite you next time for more discussion on the state of the nation. To our viewers, we appreciate your time. Continue tuning in and watching our #1 channel, that is the 5 Star TV. My name is Nyadere Wycliffe. I was your host.